Welcome back to another week of Kernel at the Buzzer. Before we start today's podcast, we want to remind you that everybody's opinions on today's podcast are their opinions. They do not reflect the Kernel in entirety. Today, we're going to be talking about both the women's and men's basketball teams starting conference playoff hot. All that and more coming up next.
This is AJ Nava with your Kentucky Sports Recap. Over Christmas break, UK athletes were very busy. Starting with track and field on January 10th, they had 5 event wins and 2 school records set by Kate Powers and Sharmel Holmes. Next up for track and field, they would be competing against Texas Tech and Vanderbilt on January 17th and 18th. Moving on to number 1 Kentucky Rifle, they outlasted number 8 Georgia Southern on January 12th, now putting Kentucky Rifle at 8-0 on the season and 4-0 in their conference. Next up, they will face Murray State on Sunday, January 19th, as part of the Withrow Invitational. Men's and women's basketball have started conference play. The men's and women's basketball have started conference play. The men are now 3-1 against SEC opponents and 5-0 against ranked teams this season. On the women's side of the ball, they are 4-0 against SEC opponents and are on a heater of an 8-game win streak. This has been AJ Nava with your Kentucky Sports Recap. Let's get on to the podcast, Kernel at the Buzzer.
Welcome back to another week of Kernel at the Buzzer. I'm your host, Kai McClelland. I'm joined once again by my co-host, AJ Nava, Israel Schill, and we're joined by men's basketball beat reporter, Tyle Russell. Going to be talking about both basketball teams today, but first, the men. Crazy amount of games over Christmas break that we haven't got a chance to touch on yet. First up, Florida. I mean, that game was unreal. The biggest offensive outburst I've seen in a while from teams. And then that bad road loss to Georgia. I don't know if y'all have any insight on that. I mean, the refs were absolutely like, you don't want to blame the refs for a game, but almost like, you have to in that situation.
It was tough. I mean, I texted a short little angry blurb to you all after that game because I think AJ or something asked about what was going on. I mean, we were getting out-rebounded, outplayed on defense. I mean, it looked like it was Georgia's night. I will say some of the calls were a little crazy. At the same time, I think we got out-physicaled. I think we got outplayed. And I think it was just not a great game for us.
Like, the clip of the guy jumping in the air and flailing like it was trending everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. Georgia shot 38 free throws to our 19.
So double the amount of free throws. I mean, obviously, you're going to play physical in that SEC play, but like y'all said, I mean, I think that's outrageous.
No excuse for that.
No, it's just straight ridiculous.
But I thought Kentucky handled it well, and then you go on the road against Mississippi State, pick up a very strong win there. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then, Tyler, you went to the A&M game last night, 2 in a row now, 3-1 in conference play. I mean, what are you seeing from this team? When you get beat by the refs, to say, and then you respond with 2 big ranked wins, I mean, what does that say about the team?
I'd say, honestly, starting with A&M, going from having a pretty good performance against Mississippi State, a great performance, but going before that to Georgia, I mean, we started to see a trend of a pattern with Kentucky's slow starts, and I think we honestly saw that against A&M. I mean, having 11 points in the first 11 minutes, really no excuse for that. But honestly, dude, like, Otego away has been so crucial, and he continues to be crucial. It started off pretty iffy, but he ended up having, I don't even know where it says it. He had 11 points. That is, every game this season now he has 10-plus points, and he's continued that streak. He did it through free throws, but he was there. He stayed down. And Jackson Robinson was 2 rebounds away from a double-double, which would have been the first time in his career that he got that. So he even mentioned last night after the game talking about how he kind of wished he got those 2 boards. But through playing at A&M, Arkansas, BYU, now Kentucky, I think that was the closest he's gotten to a double-double. But he had 22 points, and he was firing. And again, with the offense and the slow start, he started 0 for 4. And he even said, once I was getting 1, I knew I was just going to keep shooting.
Yeah, they're up top right now, 24.5 combined, those two. Well, his average for the past 2 games. And I mean, 6 threes each on average, too. So, I mean, he's really filling that star role. Because I think we've talked all year, like, the team's balanced. Like, there's not a star. There's not this guy that's, your number one pick in the draft, like last year with Reed and Rob. Like, those guys are going to score every game.
Yeah.
Now the style, you got Lamont's 33-point game against Louisville, perfect shooting. And then against A&M last night, he's out there, did he get over 10 points? I know he had a lot of assists. It's like you're playing those roles. I feel like Kentucky's doing a great job of that. But when J-Rob is now the star and he starts shooting that ball, man, sky's the limit really for this team.
We talked about it a little bit earlier. I think that was the last episode about, at least I mentioned, that I thought Jackson Robinson was very inconsistent, at least to start off the season, and that we were getting a lot of flashes of greatness from him coming off the bench, but we weren't seeing these performances that he's put up in these last two games. But I really think that it has turned around for him so far this season. Last two games he went ballistic, 7 for 10 from three against Mississippi State, and that's 70% from three, and you're shooting 10 of them. That's ridiculous. He also went 9 for 12 from the field, and of course, a good win. I didn't feel the win to be extremely
dominant.
Yeah, overly impressive from our end. Even though we did get the win, but I think without Jackson Robinson in that game, would have been a whole different story.
100%. He brought so much energy to that game, and you could see it on. Remember when he hit that first three? What did he do? Swung his arms like he just hit a buzzer beater to win the game. And that really helped us out. And like you were saying, it didn't feel like it was a dominant game. That first half, we were getting just outworked. A lot of rebounds. They went all the way to the three-point line before anyone picked them up. I hated seeing that during the game. And, yeah, it just did not feel good for us.
Let's be honest, too. When you're going against SEC opponents, and now it's, strict conference play the rest of the year, every game's going to be like that. It doesn't matter if it's bottom of the barrel. Like, you have teams like Vanderbilt and Ole Miss competing now. Just Ole Miss beat Bama last night. Yeah. I don't think anybody's expecting that. This SEC, anybody can beat anybody on any night. So it's like a win's a win when you get one, I don't think you have to blow out teams to, like, build your confidence. I think the fact, you're 5-0 against ranked teams this year, you're starting conference playoff 3-1. Sky's the limit, and you can do anything. As long as you're getting the wins, that's all that matters. Before we move on and talk about some serious stuff, let's see this Ortega dunk that he pulled off last night to get the crowd going.
Goodness.
Dang.
Also, ESPN, how do we make it Oway Ortega?
What are we doing, ESPN?
Was this on their TikTok?
This was on their YouTube Reels, TikTok, Instagram. I don't know who Oway Ortega is, but Ortega Oway, that guy can dunk for sure. Man.
Even like I was touching on before that, like with Ortega, his spark, you don't need to have plays like that in order to spark a team. You could just, make consistent steals, stops. But when you do something like that, that could change the trajectory of how the whole game is going to play out.
Absolutely.
And I think what we were touching on before, Kai, I just want to touch on that again. When we're talking about SEC play, you have to be together. I understand these. I think we're all can agree that we're past the point of, it's their first season together, this and that.
Yeah.
While it is, they have played a good amount of games
They've
together.
proven to be more than that narrative.
Exactly.
Yeah, they've had enough time to be together.
Yes, absolutely.
And with that, you have to stick together, especially through SEC play, especially when you go on the road to a place like Georgia or Mississippi State, when you have people that, drunk college kids for those 40 minutes, man, they hate you.
Yeah.
They don't even want you there.
Absolutely.
They want to kill you. So you got to stick together. And then when we're talking about that, against Mississippi State, the game they won, every starter had at least 10 points, and they shot 50% from three.
That's solid.
And that together, if everyone in the starting lineup could get 10-plus points a game, you'll start off pretty good. You'll have a pretty decent slope to ride with.
Maybe
there.
If you think about it, I know this may sound like kind of stupid just saying out loud, but if you get 10 points from each starter, it's a guaranteed 50 points.
Yeah.
Half college teams score, 65 to 70.
Yeah.
Kentucky's put up 100
And
a night on a
depending on the night, you could have Kobe Bryant coming off the bench.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
introduce the bench points. And again, in the Mississippi State game, Ansley Almanor off the bench at 11 points,
Yep.
shot 3 from 6 from deep.
Yeah,
No one was
Solid.
expecting
and
that,
no one was.
but-
That's what I was going to bring up is that
Yeah.
nobody was expecting him to shoot 6 threes,
Yeah.
and let alone hit 3 of them.
But with a
I mean,
team full of, like we said, no all-stars, I mean, you put these guys together and go as
It's
deep as-
anybody's night,
Yeah.
basically.
And
It's
as
far
anybody's
as they
night.
want.
I feel like we've had many instances as well where we get that one big game and they're the reason like Kentucky won, if that makes sense. Like Lamont against Louisville, Kobe against Florida. Like there's these nights where like Otega definitely won that Duke game. And, you know, I feel like when you have that balance, that makes all those opportunities open up. I'm for sure we're going to get like probably another Kobe game this year. Andrew Carr is going to
Totally.
have a 30-pointer at some time. He's going to knock down like 4 threes and get hot. So,
Yeah.
you know, when you have like you know, we're repeating everything we're saying these past couple of minutes, but when you have that balance, man, like, you know, possibilities are endless and anybody
sky's
can
the
go
limit.
off on any night.
Absolutely.
I had a few things that I just wanted to mention over these 4 games that we saw. A few things that I noticed. During Florida, I think that we played amazing through our bigs. I think we played great through the paint, and it was very visible. I mean, Andrew Carr had 14 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists. Amari Williams, 15 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. And that's, 44 points in the paint. That's a good night. That's a good night. And, I mean, that's an automatic. You're scoring 44 points in the paint. That's half your team's points without even having to shoot a mid-range shot. I mean, I think that's amazing, and I think that, Kentucky can really, really use that deeper in the season, especially when they fail to have great shooting nights from some of their bench players. Another thing that I wanted to bring up in the Florida game, I thought that they held very strong defensive possessions in that game. They forced Florida to use their full shot clock multiple times, really having them chuck up some prayers towards the end and just kind of hoping that they were going to get some of those points off. And Florida's 4th in the SEC in scoring. That's no easy team to stop, and especially when they have guys that can go off every night. I think it's really impressive when you can stop them in a full shot clock like that.
Yeah, Florida came in 13-0. I mean, Kentucky hands them their first loss of the season. And again, like we were talking about, it's not 10 points, but each starter had at least 14. And when you put that together again, this was the 5th game that Kentucky reached 100-plus points. And that is not even halfway. I don't even think we're at the halfway point. We're probably around the halfway point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Five games at 100-plus, and then I think 2 or 3 of them were unranked games. And the rest, they were just firing. I mean, 106 on Florida, it doesn't matter where it is. You
No,
put 106 points up at home, away, neutral site, any college game, that's an eye-opener.
It's a sweet feeling.
That's a lot of points. That's a lot of points.
In case it
And-
wasn't clear. Ton of points.
That's a ton of points.
That's a ton of points.
That's
for
NBA
sure.
points.
That's NBA
Yeah,
points.
basically.
Yeah,
And-
for sure.
Again, it makes the rest of the season just seem so much more sweet because you're wondering, like, how many points are they going to dump on Auburn,
Yeah.
who is playing without their best player and still beating teams by 20 points like they did last night.
It
And
depends
it's
on the
crazy.
night.
Yeah.
And it's, those marquee matchups, Kentucky-Auburn is going to be amazing. Tennessee-Kentucky is going to be amazing. Obviously,
That's going to be an electric
Are we
atmosphere.
going to go there?
Arkansas is not good. Can we? I mean,
Can we
they're
talk about their
0-4.
0-4 in the SEC
How
so
are
far?
Arkansas is not good, but again, even when they come in, just because of all the things about Cal, it's
Yeah.
going to be played like a
It will be.
top 25 game.
It's going to be
Oh.
played like it's the Final Four. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's going to be an
Do you
unreal
think Cal,
matchup.
Do you think he knows when that game is? Did
Nah,
y'all see
probably
that?
not.
No.
I
He
don't-
does, but
I
he's not
think-
going to say he does.
I don't think he'll ever admit it because it's Cal, but I think he's got that game circled on his calendar.
I think that's like just a true testament to like how appreciative Mark Pope,
Fans are to Mark.
yeah, like
Yeah.
if
Just
you
something
have,
as simple of looking like you care.
your former coach in a live presser after the game being like, I didn't know until yesterday we were playing today.
Oh,
That's
and I was
horrible.
happy to see that we were home.
I don't
because we played
understand.
on the road
Yeah.
a lot.
I don't understand that really.
I
Because
think he's checked out.
You think of like everything they do to prepare. Like you got to fly or drive. You got to like hotel the night before, shoot around the morning of. It's like, how are you? I don't know if he's joking. But it seemed like it was pretty serious. That's crazy.
Joke or not, that's a little tough. I don't
Joke or
know.
not, as a head coach, horrible thing to say.
Yeah, not just
horrible.
optically not a good vision
And
to
going into the
put
deep
out.
part of the program, I mean, you got guys behind the scenes that you don't even know their job title, but they're the ones that put the hotels together. They're the ones that find the travel and the flights and the buses and figuring all that out to do everything for the Hall of Fame coach John Calipari. And for him to not even acknowledge when your next game is, when you schedule everything and go through that, it's like, yeah, it's your job, but it's like a little appreciation would be nice. That's the way I looked at it.
For those guys, we acknowledge them.
Yeah.
We
How many
appreciate
$1 million
them.
does Cal make and he can't look at a calendar?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I
I'm gonna
don't
make a
I don't think
prediction.
it means
I'm going to
anything.
make a prediction. I think that by the time Kentucky comes up, I think it's March 1st they play them. Around then, I think we'll see a week before the press conference, we'll see something with Cal kind of throwing a shot, saying like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I didn't even know we were at Kentucky."
Oh, I didn't even realize, blah, blah, blah.
Mark that down. I think that's going to
Well,
I would not be shocked.
That one's for press, though. We all know that one's just going to be
Yeah.
for press.
Oh, yeah.
here's a topic I want to bring up to see if you all can, like, agree with it or not. You've got guys like Willie Cauley going on KSR saying, you know, they're for Kentucky. He's not a Cal kid. He's for Kentucky no matter what. So it's like, I had this like pre-notion that like if you went to Kentucky, you're Cal's kid, you'll always follow Cal. I know he's at Arkansas now. Do y'all think like there's ever a world where like people are gonna be like, oh, I'm not a Mark Pope kid, and he leaves? Like it feels like he's so true to Kentucky. He's homegrown. He's played here.
He's the essence of everything Kentucky basketball. I don't think that there's a way to even think about it any other way.
Right.
Mark Pope has distilled such intense but passionate love for not only the sport in Kentucky basketball, but his players' families, his everything. I mean, he has been such an amazing addition to, I think, the whole program, and something that will really flip us around. And you can look. I mean, Arkansas ain't doing so hot right now, so
Right.
you can see. And I think he's doing great things.
I'm pretty sure media day he told you that he drove and picked up Andrew Carr from the airport, and it was 3 a.m.
Yeah, he
Like-
picked him up from the airport. I want to say Nashville, and drove him back up to Lex. And Andrew Carr made a joke saying like, "Oh, I just want him to be quiet," because it was like 4 a.m. Pope was himself. He was energetic. He was fired up. I do kind of want to touch on what you're saying, and I think that if you're a true member of the BBN and you're like a crazy Kentucky fan, I think from that point of view you would see it as, okay, you play for Mark Pope, you played for John Calipari, but in terms of overall everything, like in professional sports and college sports, you're not committing to Mark Pope. You're committing to Kentucky. You don't play for Mark Pope. You play for Kentucky. You play for Mark Pope at Kentucky. It's always going to be the team you play for. I mean, for the Patriots, it's not, or like, again, for college, UNC, no one's going to say, oh, yeah, I play for Bill Belichick.
No,
you're going to say I play for UNC. So I think in terms of that, I think people are going to, depending on the level of fandom, I think you're going to take it as you play for Mark Pope. And I think also part of it doesn't matter, and you don't play for a coach, you play for a school. You play for a university, you play for a program. That's the way I look at it.
All right, guys. Well, I wanted to touch on the Georgia game a little bit. It was just an embarrassing loss by us, something I didn't expect at all. And I wanted to see your guys' takes on it because of how horrid it was.
First SEC loss. Obviously, it's an extremely hard conference to play in. But you're also losing to an unranked team, regardless of their record. They were unranked at the time, regardless of the fact that they are 23 now. They were unranked at the time. Kentucky scored under 70 for just the third time this season. They're the third highest scoring offense in the country. All three of those games that scored under 70, they lost. And they didn't play well in second chance opportunities. They let Georgia get out to a huge halftime lead that, you can try to come back from that as hard as you want. And they made a solid attempt at a comeback, but they didn't have, I think, enough heart and fight to finish that game out. And I do think it's a little bit of the fact that it was Georgia's night. But, you foul 25 times, regardless of what we're saying, the refs were, it's okay. They did get out rebounded by almost 10. They shot 24% from three. And I just think they got torn up by a couple guys specifically, in Asa Newell and Blue Kane. they were everywhere. Asa Newell, 17 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. And Blue Cane had 15 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. I mean, it's a two-man show putting up a lot of points right there.
I don't mean to be that guy, but it's just like it's an overreaction loss. Like, if that game's at Rupp, it's not even close. Those guys aren't doing that. And in that same light, I don't think, the free throw battle would be 38-19 or whatever it was. I know it was double. I think it's a different game if it's at Rupp. I know you can't put those scenarios out in the world too much, but I think it's an overreaction. They responded with 2 ranked wins, after that. But that's not reality. They're going to go on the road again, and they're probably there's going to be some internal reactions there where you're like, oh, we lost last time we're on the road against an unranked team. How do we clean this up?
I just don't think you can look at it from a standard of road win versus home win, especially in a sport where your most important games aren't going to be played at home.
Good point.
It's a proper reaction, I think.
I just disagree because if you win,
which you have your right to disagree, of course.
If you win at Tennessee, that just means more.
If you're going to talk about, again, from what you're saying, if you're going to talk about, well, the away or the home wins, like most of your games aren't going to be played on a home court, then you could say, okay, well, now is your road win at Tennessee, or is your road win at Mississippi State not as big because it was at Mississippi State?
You're playing the whole
You could just
March
say, well,
Madness
if it was
tournament.
home, then it doesn't matter because it was at home, but you could also say, okay, well, it doesn't matter because it was away. So
Yeah.
I feel like if you're going to talk about home and away, you got to kind of weigh them out a little bit. But I think that was me personally. I overreacted like crazy because I saw another slow start, and it not even just from not even a fan, just like from the point of view of watching the game, just starting so terrible. They shot 24%. I think they made, I have written down 6 3-pointers. That with Kentucky, that's not gonna fly. Kentucky
I think people overreacted because it's that Ohio State loss that nobody's expecting.
They did overreact because it's Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia basketball.
Georgia
True.
beats us in football, now they beat us in basketball too. It's crazy. So
It just adds on
that's
to
what
it.
all the fans were saying.
And
so
it wasn't
it's
just a loss at Georgia; it was a pretty bad loss.
It was a
too.
bad loss.
It
It
was
was
a bad
not
loss.
just bad. It was ugly.
Yeah.
It was
Like I said,
ugly.
Bad start. We
Kentucky
never
did
caught
not
our
play
footing.
well.
Yeah.
We never what was it? 2 of 12 3-point percentage in the second half. We never caught our.
And
we
they
never
had,
got
they
feeling
had a
for us.
decent shot in the second half. I remember watching, being like, all right, if they go 2 possessions here, get a bucket, they get 2 stops, they're completely in it. But again, did you say they made 2?
2
in the
out of
second
12.
half?
In
Yeah,
the
that's
second
not
half.
winning you anything.
again
Nothing.
though, at that time seems horrible.
Yeah,
Still
but
seems
now,
horrible saying out loud.
Seeing what happened after.
At least they responded, and that's
They
all that
responded
matters.
That's what
very well.
matters.
They responded very well, to say the least.
It
that's
means
all
a
you could
lot that
ask
they
for.
responded. It just means more.
Again,
Just means
that's all
more.
you could ask for.
That's all you can ask for,
You
really.
can't really, if you lose and then you kind of just stay on that track and just keep losing and keep slowing or starting slow, then you'd have a problem. But seeing the way that they were able to, get on Mississippi State and A&M, you can go back and forth. They lost to unranked Georgia, okay, but they won at Mississippi State. So you can kind of just cross those out, or you could add 1, -1. But I think they're in a good spot right now.
A Texas A&M game. There's something I saw in the game. I was there in the arena that just ticked me off more than anything else that I just want to rant about. To Mark Pope and all the coaches that handle the offense,
Calling them out.
stop
By
running.
name.
Stop running that stupid baseline play where a guy is handling the ball on the right wing. It's always on the right wing of the 3-point line. And then there's a guy in the corner, back cut, and then the ball handler kicks it, either bounce pass to the cutter. It never works. It never works. It happened 7 times at
hell,
Texas A&M.
if you're realizing it, I'm sure coaches. So.
I know, but it happened 7
Hey, now.
times. First half, second half.
Don't diminish AJ's
Oh, no, no.
basketball
Zero time.
education abilities.
An SEC coach is definitely going to point it out.
No,
If a fan
No,
is-
I'm just giving you a hard time.
It happened in the A&M game. I watched footage. It's happened, a trickle amount of times in different games. I keep seeing it. It keeps not working. The cutter meets an entire wall of guys and has to do a sidearm pass to the opposite corner to get it. It never works. I never want to see it again
Scratch it.
for the rest of my life.
You know what, AJ? they're going to listen. They're not going to run it. They're going to keep it in their back pocket. And when there's a national title game going on, they need to play. They're drawing it up.
Sure.
That's the play they're
Oh,
going
they
with.
stopped running this one back in January. We don't need to worry about it.
Yeah,
Just
right.
pull it out.
They just pull it out of nowhere.
It's like the flea flicker in football.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they haven't ran that since January last
Yeah.
year. But,
That's awesome. We're going to take a quick break from the episode to play a new short game called Name That Player. Let's get into it. Let's see what you guys can do here. I got 5 pictures
right.
of active Kentucky basketball men's or women's players. And you guys are going to have to tell me who this person is. These pictures are about as old as I could find from these players. So let's go into this first one. I started off easy. You guys should get
And
this.
we just blurted out. No.
I mean, you guys can. I think we just blurted out whoever
All right.
gets it first wins.
Me
All
and
right.
AJ, we're getting
Yeah.
talking smack a little before.
All right.
Oh.
Oh, you guys are talking. Oh, all right.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
saw him earlier.
I thought, this is Jason Tatum and Caitlin Clark. I thought that was Rob Dillingham.
He did
so-
think that was Rob Dillingham. That is, in fact, Caitlin Clark. Not the same. Similar. Maybe. They both play basketball.
So this is definitely between them.
Yeah. All right. Starting off easy. So I got this first one for y'all.
Come on, Butler.
Wow.
I mean,
That
that's
was- Easy.
That's easy.
All right. I told you I was starting off easy.
Okay.
You still didn't
Wow.
get it
I
first.
don't know.
You can't yell out that's easy and you lost.
Oh. All right, that's wrong.
Second
All
one.
right.
Okay.
Second one.
Okay.
You're looking at the person holding the trophy.
Oh man.
Oh,
Is that
that's
Clara Strack?
Oh,
Clara Strack.
It is Clara
This is
Strack.
Clara Strack.
Man.
Strack.
All right.
Crazy.
So that's 1-1 right there. I hope you guys don't tie. That would be interesting. All right.
Jackson Robinson. Let's go.
He's fast. You
You know what
guys.
gave it
That's
away?
great.
I didn't even check. Out of Oklahoma. I just knew that's.
You
where
just
he
knew
was
that's
from.
where he
Yeah.
was from?
And
Wow.
then I looked. But,
Yeah.
All right, you know what? I'm turning around. I'm facing this board.
All right. This is the last one, all right?
2-1-0.
Oh, this is the last one?
This is the last one. I
Wow.
only got 5. I only got this one though. This is a deep cut. You guys have to
Wait, isn't this
lock
number
in.
4?
This was number 4, wasn't it?
Oh no.
No, this was 3.
This is 3.
So I
Yeah.
got 2 more.
Watch it be college.
Oh, this one's
champ.
not the deep cut then. But this one's still a good one here.
Deja Lawrence.
It is Deja Lawrence, who has been
Man.
playing
All right,
lights
two
out
shooters.
Women's
recently.
basketball. Come
So
on.
AJ's out. He's
Yeah.
got nothing so far. So I mean, that's 2-2. This is for all the marbles right here. Y'all ready for this one?
I can still guess one.
Name
That's y'all.
that player.
Wait, hold on.
It's not a current player.
This is a current.
This is not a current.
This
player.
is a current basketball player at the University of Kentucky.
That Trent
It's
Noah?
not Grant Darbyshire.
It is not Grant
Not
Darbyshire.
Walker
It is
Horn.
not Walker Horn. It is not Trent Noah.
I don't
Yeah,
know ball like
dude,
this.
No, this guy's not on the
It's
team.
This guy's on the
not
team.
Travis
Is he a
Perry.
manager?
This guy's not a manager. This guy suits up for basketball games.
Kerr?
No, sir.
No,
Would you like a hint?
yeah.
He's
sure.
a walk-on.
Yeah, I just
Oh.
named all of them. There's no way.
There's one more.
Zach Tao.
Oh, you already named him?
No, I just
Yeah,
did now.
him.
Zach Tao.
Yeah,
Oh, Zach.
that's Zach Tao.
Damn.
Is that the guy that was in the
That,
frat?
this is the
Yeah.
beta
Oh,
president who tried out for
wow.
the basketball team, open tryouts, and
Yeah.
made it. That's Aura.
wow.
That's-
Trying out
that's
for the
cool.
basketball team and making
He
it.
made
That's
it on
Aura.
the, he made
Yeah.
it on the Kernel podcast. I mean,
He made it on the Kernel
He's here.
podcast.
He's living
Isn't that the
everyone's-
definition of making it? Making
Yeah,
it on the
basically.
podcast?
That's making it.
It's a living
So-
everyone's dream.
Yeah,
Yes.
walking on to Kentucky basketball, it's a dream.
First week of Izzy's mini games. Tyler takes it 3-2.
Tyler Russell,
Congratulations.
Congrats.
first week. Congratulations
Go.
there. Good job. I think we have the cheer button on there somewhere.
Which one?
Oh yeah, it's
Oh,
cheering.
it's
It's going
cheering,
off. I
it's
can hear
cheering.
it. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job.
Congratulations.
Amazing. Amazing.
Not only are the men succeeding in conference play, but even better, undefeated so far, the women's basketball team absolutely killing it right now. I think, like, I personally, after that 12-win season, and knowing this is the first year, just like Mark Pope for Kenny Brooks, bringing in all these new transfers, and you have 2 returners from last year's team. He has 2 come with him that actually played on the team with him besides Gabby, so that can make 5 people. He has any idea who they are. You have Amelia come from JUCO, and you have people coming from different conferences. It's hard to put this team together. And now they're sitting at a 8-game win streak. They have 1 loss in the season. That was way back when against North Carolina. And now conference play, they're absolutely killing it. What's the things that are sticking out? Why are they succeeding? Is there anything in particular?
I got one thing, and this could be my hot take for the episode. It could also not be that hot of a take. Tiani Key, SEC Defensive Player of the Year.
Whoa.
She
Okay.
has been absolutely lights out on defense this season.
I agree.
I mean, she and Klarstrack in the post are the most unstoppable post duo in the conference, in maybe the country.
Well, they're leading the nation in blocks.
They are just electric to watch play.
Yeah. My answer to that question, Kai, you can go more into the specifics. Georgia Amore. I mean,
Easy.
every night.
Easy.
Every night you're guaranteed buck.
Currently,
You're guaranteed 25 and 10 from her every night, really.
That's a stretch. But
What would you say is a guarantee?
Yeah, what's the
guaranteed a
guarantee?
night from Georgia, 18 and 7. That's
Good
great.
enough.
She is averaging
She-
7.
That's good enough
It's not
for
good
me,
enough,
man.
That's great
amazing.
enough.
That's great.
Well, here's
yeah.
the thing. I thought she started very slow. But to say someone started slow when you're giving the keys to a new team
Yep.
and you're the one, you're Coach Brooks' prodigy, you have to take over this team by yourself and create the chemistry. Now, I think they're now at that point where, like, it's not all on her and they're actually playing competition where it's like, hey, someone else has to step up. Like, I missed my first 2 threes. Like, I need someone else to, you know.
And
And
she's got people to step up for
Yeah,
her too.
now it's all clicking now. Like,
Absolutely.
Deja Law's hitting threes like crazy.
She is a dog.
And
a
then-
dog.
Like you're mentioning with Tiani and Claire holding it down in the paint.
Yeah.
It just, all these opportunities are created offensively. I've seen so many times being at those games where Georgia's caught the ball on a break and makes a play.
Yeah.
She's pulled up for 3 like she's Steph.
She's
or
pulling up from the logo and drilling it.
logo.
Sure.
Close
Yeah.
enough.
Close enough.
Hey, I think she could.
If you're within like
I
4
think
feet
she
from the
could.
logo, that's logo.
You know what?
If you touch the logo on the play, that's logo.
Okay.
So what if you
Everyone
take it over
touches the
No,
logo.
you
and
heard me.
drive?
Yeah, you heard me.
I
That
wouldn't-
counts too.
I
That's
wouldn't
a
be
logo.
surprised.
That's a logo bucket.
But either or, she's getting more confident. She had
Yeah.
5 games in a row with 20 points. She
She
missed
is.
6 games in a row by 1 bucket against Florida. And then she's also leading the nation in assists. She's got that 1-2 punch. She can do everything on the court. And it's all clicking for Kentucky. I don't want to get, like, out of my means here. And we can talk predictions, you know, very insightfully. But they blew Vanderbilt out at
My
Vanderbilt.
goodness. Yes, they did.
They stopped a national player of the year, like watch list player, like top 5 being mentioned, to like no points, no rebounds at all. And then that same Vanderbilt team goes into LSU and barely loses. What happens when LSU's at Kentucky? Like, is there a chance that the Wildcats are going to knock off a top 10 ranked team, you know,
Absolutely.
and make themselves like known as one of the best in the country? Like, truly, like,
I can absolutely see that. And
I
I
got-
think when you take what Memorial Coliseum has right now, which you can call it what you want. I mean, I haven't been to a game yet this year, but I've seen the tops a little here and there. But other than that, it's full. So when you put LSU in there and Kim Mulkey in there, I think with that environment, I think absolutely you could steal a win there. It's not, I don't even know if you'd consider it stealing a win. I think you can just get a win against
And
LSU
I don't
there.
think it's stealing a win either. I mean, tell me why they wouldn't win that game.
I mean,
Tell us.
it's one of those things where there's levels to it, and you can't expect Kentucky to have a chance going into that game. It's almost like, I mean, I don't know really what to compare it to. There's levels to women's basketball right now, and I feel like it's faded out as the sports become more popular. We see this transfer portal becoming evident and key to the play. But South Carolina has won like 50 SEC games in a row.
They're-
That's crazy.
That's tough.
And
That's
it's
a
like,
different
who's
level.
ever going to beat South Carolina?
So would you put LSU and South Carolina on the same tier?
That's what I'm
right
trying to
now?
figure out.
No
Because
chance.
L-
Like,
LSU is a loss.
If Kentucky played LSU tomorrow and played South Carolina the day after, so we have the same window of a week to compare the two, would you put them in the same tier?
I would just say, like, I don't know. It's not yes or it's not no, but I feel like Kentucky's not at that point, or I'm not going to expect anything from them because they play at South Carolina last game of the year. Kentucky does. And
That could be a pretty bad.
I read a
confidence
college basketball
thing going in.
report put
Especially
out.
to the SEC tournament.
Yeah.
They put out their final scores for the rest of the year. 90-71 is what they're saying, South Carolina. And I'm like, hold up, nah, like that's going to be a 30-point game. And I hate to say it. I want to see Kentucky thrive, and I want to see them, perform well. I want to, see every
Cover
game.
that.
Yeah, I
Yes,
want to go
yeah.
cover that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to get my hopes up. To answer your question, I don't think LSU's in the same realm as South Carolina. They haven't lost this year. They haven't lost on the road at all. And you can argue their toughness of schedule maybe. They haven't played the best teams before conference play, playing I don't even know, I think it's Fordham. That's crazy, but
Yeah, Fordham.
It's
That's
actually
a
close,
crazy
close to where I live.
pronunciation.
Close to Jersey. It's Fordham.
Fordham.
But-
Fordham.
My bad.
Goodness gracious.
But
you
I
think he's
just-
from the South?
I think Kentucky's that's why you got the whole season. I mean,
Yeah.
they can prove it. And they have Texas at home. That's another crazy, highly ranked team that South Carolina dissipated, by the way. And then you have, I'm trying to think, you have Tennessee that's at home. You have these ranked teams coming to Kentucky, and I'm not going to say they're going to win, but it's definitely going to provide a great environment for the fans. People are going to show out because they know how important it is. And let alone a first-year coach, a first-year program that is completely revamped, to even think they have a chance against LSU and Texas is crazy in itself. So
I think going from last time we did this, we gave the ceilings and the floor. I remember saying that I think where they were then, this UK women's team could make the Final Four. I still think they can. And I think going off of college basketball or just basketball in general is a game of runs in games. That's a saying. So if you take a game of runs, but you put it in the middle of the season, I mean, you take Kentucky's win streak right now.
8 in a row.
Would you feel – I know you guys didn't agree about or didn't seem like you agreed about the Final Four run. If you took Kentucky this way that they are right now on this win streak, if you put the last game that they just played, that was their last game heading into the SEC tournament and NCAA tournament, then do you think they can make a Final Four run with the way that they're playing right now?
Yeah, because they're hot.
Exactly, a game of runs.
And it's one of those things where it's also good to mention they can still get better.
Yeah.
Coach Brooks is very adamant. Every presser he has, his opening statement somewhere, he says, we can still get better. We can still, improve in this. And I thought we did a good job, but we can still get better. So if this isn't their ceiling yet, it's great to mention. I would love to see them, go on another streak, but they're definitely going to drop a couple games.
Yeah.
I don't see them finishing out the season. I mean, there's
they're not
no
gonna
way.
finish. They're not going to win out.
But still, like you said, it's a game of runs, and they are hot right now. If they're going into the SEC tournament, sure. But you still have a plethora of games, and I'm pretty sure half of their remaining games are ranked opponents.
Yep.
So that gives you
Rough
Good
stretch.
that
Rough
gives you
stretch.
plenty of abilities to prove yourself.
Yeah, it's a rough stretch, but it's also a great opportunity.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, this is the third time I'm going to say it this podcast, but the sky really is the limit. You can do anything with that team. I don't want to get my hopes up.
I honestly
Fair.
think, as much as I agree with you and what you said about LSU and the fact that LSU will probably wipe them off the face of the earth,
I don't think that.
that's,
They'll beat 'em
what
by-
did you say, 30?
No.
That was
Oh, that was South Carolina.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. I think LSU at Kentucky, 80 to 68 or something like that.
Yeah, I get that. I think it obviously depends how we played defensively with Key and Strack. Strack had a rough last few games right before SEC play. She's having a hard time bumping down mid-range shots that she hits with ease every other time.
Yeah.
I think that if she continues to work through that slump and she really takes a step and Tiani Key continues to play like a monster, and Deja Lawrence continues to shoot 50% from three, and Georgia Amore continues to drop 20 almost every game, I mean, I see them going really, really far, and I think defensively they can take a lot of teams that should be scoring 100 on them and maybe only let them get 80, 85.
So, AJ, I want you to intervene here a little bit.
I have to agree
What?
with Israel. Like you said, Claire Strack's on the slump. Basketball is a game.
It
Highs
is.
and lows, slumps and runs, like you said.
And she's working her way out of it.
She's going to get out of it. It's not – she's working. She's going to.
She's going
like
to.
every
She
baller does.
Just turned 19, by the way.
She did
If you
just
think
turn
about it,
19.
Just sophomore, and she
Yes.
just turned 19.
And
I mean, she's probably the second best player on the team, and you can deem her that. She played with Coach Brooks, but she only started 2 games at center. She's a bench player for, most of her first year there. Even though they went far in the tournament and everything, like that experience is not there. And you're expecting her to go out and compete against LSU bigs who's leading the nation in rebounds per game. I mean,
it's a good thing Claire Strack's
It's
not
a
by
great-
herself, though.
yeah,
So
it's a great
team
task, but at the
And she
same
has one
time,
of the
it's
best rebounders
crazy.
in the country with her, too.
We all agree that South Carolina is in a level of their own. LSU's just right there. I think, how you said, Kentucky isn't there, or they're knocking on the door. I think they're knocking on the door, honestly.
I would like to bring up one more thing about their defense, because I noticed that they hold their opponents to extremely low shooting percentages. And I wasn't sure if that was a fluke or if that just they come in here and play bad. Mississippi State shot 26% from 3 against them.
I think they came into the game like 14-1, right?
Yeah.
Undefeated. They were around
something
there,
like
they
that.
They're good.
Good team.
They held Florida to 27% from 3, and they held Auburn to 14% from 3.
I can attest that most of it is like the 3-point percentage is just missed shots, but at the same time, it's not like it's the closing out. They have great length.
They do.
And that starting
Length.
lineup, like Deja and Amore, normal sized guards, but Hassett, Key, Strack, I mean, there's not a lot out there that stack up with that. There's centers out there, that can go up against Strack head on, but Key and Hassett sink down a lot. And then recently, I mean, she's filling in too because she's a freshman, but Clara Silva's come in. She's 6'7". She clouds that entire paint just by standing there. And, Coach Brooks has alluded to her being a baby deer right now, and it's true, but that's still length. That's still uncomfortableness for someone trying to get up a shot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. And I think talk about in terms of Amelia Hassett, I just pulled this up and wanted to confirm it, but the top 3 leading rebounders, Strack, Hassett, Key. I mean, it's Strack with 9.7, Amelia Hassett with 9.4, Tiani Key with 8.8, and then right under that is Clara Silva, but she's averaging 2.8. So, you see a big drop off
They call them
there.
the triplets.
But, again, I mean, if you have 3 of them, I mean, you don't really I want to say that with a grain of salt. You don't need other people to be grabbing boards because obviously all-around production helps. But when you have 3 really solid players that you can count on to get you boards, I think that in terms of confidence and willingness to just not worry about, I have to make this play, I have to do this. It's kind of like, okay, if I mess up, I know one of the 3 will be there.
And it's unique, too, because I know for a fact in that Auburn game that Tiani Key was playing point guard.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all kind of looking around like Georgia's not out there. We're expecting Cassidy or Deja to be handling the ball. Tiani dribbled the ball up court like 5 possessions in a row. And we were like, that's scary because if she's able to run in transition, someone else gets a rebound. You have her playing point and she's 6'5". Like, my goodness, that's crazy, and you're going to bust team's butt.
Yeah,
so
there's
they're
nothing
balanced.
scarier in basketball than the point forward.
That's what I'm
Nothing.
saying.
There's-
Amari Williams.
Yeah.
Okay. Whoa.
All right.
Amari Williams take the ball from the court multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I pray that he passes it before he.
Yeah,
Oh,
before
no,
he
I
pulls
totally
up.
agree. I was
Please
just,
pass, please
I was
pass.
just making a little comparison. Amari Point Guard Williams.
Amari Point Guard Williams.
Tiani point guard key.
Yeah.
I do know, to your point, I don't know the number, and I hate that I don't know the number, but it is one of the only trios to average 9 or more boards
It
in women's
was-
basketball history.
It was,
It's
I
like
remember,
12.
well, we also, when I worked one of the games for the SEC Network, we put up a graphic talking about the rebounding numbers, and there is no team in college basketball, women's college basketball right now that even has 2 people averaging more than 9 rebounds a game. We have 3. That was the stat.
That's
Now
crazy.
it's
And
cold.
Now it's 0.2 off.
It's 0.2 off, but at the time,
The analytics,
at the
yeah.
time, it was 3 people
Yeah.
averaging 9 or more rebounds a game. That's unbelievable.
And there was even a point early on in the season where Tiana was averaging 3.7 blocks a game with like
Yeah,
10
that was
rebounds.
insane.
And I know those averages dip down because you have a 1-block game here, and
Yeah.
you don't have to play 30 minutes every night. But still, impressive stuff from the women's team all around, especially being led by Brooks and Amore. The chemistry is there, and it's building. And
It's only going to get better.
I dare say it. I really do dare say it. But there could be a world where, women's basketball is just as prevalent as men's basketball here.
I hope so.
We
Yeah.
can't
And
wait till
I
that
think
day.
we all hope that and want that because for the longest time, that Calipari era, it was like failure after failure after failure when they probably should have been winning it all if there's maybe another coach in there. I mean, you can make so many cases like that 2020 year, and I mean, all these different things happening and going on. And now that that's over and there's new chapters here, it feels very equal, feels whole, and it just feels like both basketball programs are back and we
Yeah.
can all enjoy it.
And we are Kentucky is the only school with 2 teams ranked in the top 12.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Shout
Yeah.
out.
no one else is doing what Kentucky's doing.
The
Nobody
common
else is doing.
denominator and the problem solver to all of it, whether it's men's, women's, just win. You win games, you put people in seats, people care.
Yep.
No one cares about a school that doesn't win anything.
Absolutely.
Very true.
Yep.
Absolutely. So something else I wanted to talk about was Kentucky moving up to 12, women's basketball moving up to 12 in the poll, I think was a great jump, especially after sitting at 16, 16, 15, 16, wherever it was around that spot. I mean, they were winning games and they were winning them big, and they were barely cracking into that top 15. I think it's great that they moved up to 12. I think it would be great for them to continue to win in the SEC and move up to top 10, and I don't necessarily think that it's impossible. And I think that we could see Kentucky finishing top 10 with a few big SEC wins at the end of the season on both sides of the ball. And I think it would be great.
Yeah, right now, I mean, they're being recognized. I'm going to talk bad about them again. I think Vanderbilt was a good win, but besides that, haven't beat that ranked team yet. I want to see them go out there and be a ranked SEC team. Then I'll completely agree with you. Then I'll say,
No, I'm with you.
yeah, they're top 10. Yeah, they deserve to be number 4 in the NCAA tournament. That's the projections right now. I think they're in for an embarrassment if they hold – they're allowed to be confident, but if they're going to hold their standards so high where it's unrealistic, I don't want that to become a thing. And then get embarrassed, and then the whole season's over because you got embarrassed. And then every game after that, you're trying to, make up for what you lost. So
And that
So you're
I'm
just
rambling,
waiting.
but
You're
you know what
waiting.
I'm saying,
That's
right?
where it also comes in with coaching. I mean, you see Pope and Brooks, they both look like they have great mindsets. And you have
That's a great point.
17, 18 to 20, 21, 22-year-olds. That's prime years of being like in between like a kid and adult, a young adult. There is no doubt in my mind that from the men's side and the women's side, when you get from a former athlete, I'm not even trying to go there, but like just playing in high school, like once you start winning a bunch of games, you kind of do start to think to yourself like, all right, like we're hot, we can beat anyone. And while that's a great mindset to have, you also can't let the X's and O's slip away to the point where we're chilling, we're on an 8-game win streak, we don't have to worry about who's next. And with kids and young adults, that could absolutely be a
Absolutely.
deciding factor in a game. So that's when it also comes in with coaching.
Yeah, and there's
which
always
has been great.
there's always a chance that they build that overconfidence, especially on an 8-game win streak, and then go slide a few games, and
Yeah.
then that's could very well drop them out of the top 25 as easily as they could slide up into the top 10.
Exactly.
And that's a job for the coaching staff to just deal with that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you have to make sure that you keep all of these young players in the correct mindset, the correct
keep 'em
headspace
grounded.
going forward, keep
Yeah.
them grounded, make sure that they're all prepared to play and play in the biggest conference in college basketball.
My final point, this may be the worst teams we ever see of the Pope and Brooks era. Honestly,
Could
if you
be.
think
I-
about it,
I hope so.
I think the recruiting's going to become even stronger than
It already has.
Yeah,
It
it's
has.
crazy. You have
Yeah.
AJ getting a freaking $5 million deal. I mean, that's
Yeah.
there's
Go to
going to be.
BYU.
You wish it was you, AJ, huh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
not
Not that
you,
AJ.
It's crazy how you pointed at me.
Yeah.
No,
No,
but
wrong AJ.
Yeah.
$5 million deal.
Yeah. Where's
but
mine?
man, like
One day, though.
One day.
it's gonna get out of hand, and I know they're trying to make their restrictions, but Brooks and Pope are gonna go out there. We're gonna see them getting those top 10 high school. But Coach Brooks already has.
Coach Brooks has.
Yeah.
He's already pulled in
He's
some,
already got 2 in the top 20. to
some
commit next
really
year.
promising prospects.
Also, tie that back to our conversation real quick before of, you don't play for a coach, you play for a program. I mean, again, you put Kenny Brooks at Virginia Tech, he gets what he gets. But Mark Pope at BYU, okay, but then you come to Kentucky, and that opens up a whole new door of endless possibilities. I mean, even some of the guys like Jasper Johnson and some of the other recruits that Kentucky's looking at that they've gotten. I mean, Jasper Johnson may be a little different because he's in state. But when you take these guys, I don't want to say it for sure, but I can guarantee like a Caden Lewis who is committed to UK, he probably wouldn't have looked at BYU if Pope was there. So then that comes with recruiting. But again, it opens the door of where you are and where you play.
Yeah.
And I think both teams being as successful as they are right now in their first season, I mean, these recruits are just going to wonder, this is their first year there. I mean, imagine when I'm there, what it could be like. Then one kid commits, and then they want to play together, and then just keep stacking.
Snowballs.
Yeah.
And then bam, you got Cal 2.0.
Or-
I get what you're saying, though.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Kentucky
yeah.
name is still the
Yes,
Kentucky
it's back
name,
out there.
and it's
Exactly.
going to be that way for a while.
Our SD card has 12 minutes left. So
Okay, let's record intros then.
we got to wrap it up a little bit. So,
Okay. Do we have
I'll-
final thoughts for anyone?
yeah. So, guys, wrapping up the podcast, I want to know if you think they can win the SEC championship, both teams, and I want to know how far you think they're going in the NCAA tournament.
We're talking regular season SEC or SEC tournament?
Tournament, yeah.
Tournament?
Do you think they'll be
Tournament.
champs or have a shot, and how far they'll go in the national tournament?
Kick this off.
Yeah, kick it off for us.
I
Go ahead,
think-
guest.
It's pretty difficult because when March comes, you never know what team you're going to get. But if we're taking where everyone's at right now, in terms of the men, where they're at right now, I think they can maybe make the SEC championship, depending on how the seeding goes. But I don't really think Auburn is. Let me rephrase that. I think Auburn is going to be extremely difficult to beat. And I think every SEC game that Kentucky plays at home is 100% winnable. And even when Auburn comes here on March 1st, that's winnable. But that's the one that I look at where I'm I don't know. So if we're talking about winning a tournament, I think Auburn's going to win the SEC tournament. In terms of women, South Carolina, again, that's what I would have to say. NCAA tournament, do you say that?
Yeah.
I think men, again, I could say Final Four, depending on the path they have. They can build a good seed for themselves and then snowball from there. Women's, I would also say Final Four, but again, it's pretty difficult depending on what seeding you get. But at this rate, it's going to be a good seed for both teams.
I'm going to say I completely agree with you. Put the women at Elite Eight.
Yeah.
But besides that, I
It's good
completely
enough.
agree.
You said you take them how they are now. I'm going to take them as how I think they'll be at the end of the season. For SEC, for the women's, no. South Carolina, they exist.
Well, what do you see in the SEC?
What do I see in the
making
SEC?
the chip or
I see them
first?
I see them pretty far, but not
Not the
chip.
chip.
Not the
It's
chip.
valid.
Yep. For NCAA, I see them Elite Eight. The women's, I see them Elite Eight for sure. On the men's side, I think we have a good shot to get to the chip. We know this team, how close they're getting. Their ceiling is the sky's the limit.
That's right.
I think so. NCAA tournament, I don't know where I see the men's, but I do see them Sweet 16, Elite 8. I see them there.
At least second weekend. I mean, you got to give something to root for. You gotta do that in the first
Jeez.
week.
Yeah, you'd hope to be.
Yeah.
You'd hope to be there.
Izzy, what do we think?
Yeah, I mean, I think my predictions probably won't stray too far from where they were previously when we had this conversation. I do think that South Carolina will win the SEC tournament for the women's. I think that we definitely have a chance to maybe make that SEC championship run if we can upset an LSU or if we can upset a Tennessee or something. I guess it might not even be an upset at that point. Depends on
Yeah.
where we are. But I think there's a chance to get there. don't know if we'll necessarily win the SEC tournament, but I think if we do well and we seed well in the national tournament, I think that they have a chance to do Elite Eight. I'm thinking maybe closer to Sweet 16. I don't know if this team quite has what it takes to, beat that UCLA, that South Carolina, that Notre Dame. But on the men's side, Mark Pope has a basketball team that could win the national championship. And I will say that right now. I think Mark Pope has a basketball team that will win the national championship. Maybe not will, can win the national championship. Absolutely has the capacities to win the SEC. Tennessee and Auburn are going to be extremely difficult to beat.
I think Tennessee sucks. That's just me, though.
I think they'll fall off.
I would hope so. They obviously, had that brutal loss to end their perfect season.
I don't even know if that counts as brutal.
Yeah,
whatever. 10 times worse than brutal.
Yeah, it was tough. It was really tough for Tennessee on that game. But, I think that we have a chance. That Kentucky has a chance to go SEC champions in the regular season, maybe losing in the championship, and then Final Four. Yeah, you already got me there. Kentucky's on the national championship.
Thank you all for tuning in to another week of Kernel at the Buzzer. Up next, Kentucky men's basketball will be hosting the Alabama Crimson Tide. The women's team will be traveling to take on the Georgia Bulldogs in Athens. Once again, I've been Kai McClelland, your host, and thank you for catching up with the Kernel.